ブルブルバイオハザードデュアルショックバージョン
Capcom.
What the hell was that?
You've been trolled, you've been trolled. Have a nice day.
Hello and welcome to Resident Evil's remake, Resident Evil Remake. The remake of Resident Evil's first game that was originally released on the GameCube all the way back in 2002. I'll be covering the remaster of the remake with its Steam port for this particular video. I wonder how many times I'm going to say something in this video. With this being a follow-up to my previous video, links here for anyone interested. This is going to be my first time playing both characters, since the only other time I played was once as Jill. Will there still be campy dialogue? What's new to this version of the game? And will Wesker have hair that doesn't look like French fries this time? Let's get into the Arklay mansion again and see just how good is the masterpiece Resident Evil Remake.
Resident Evil, more terrifying than ever, comes to Nintendo GameCube. Spine-chilling action. Devastating weapons. Unspeakable evil. Live the nightmare. Resident Evil, exclusively from Capcom. Rated M for mature, only on Nintendo GameCube.
My experience with Resident Evil is pretty limited since I started fully playing them with 7 and the games that followed after 7. So back in 2002, when the remake released on the GameCube, at the time, I didn't even know what the series was. My attention was more preoccupied with Beautiful Joe by the time I had even seen Resident Evil at a Toys R Us, if I remember right.
Look at me! I know, we seem to be insane. I'm told!
And that was a year after the game had released. And I have to say, after playing the GOG port of the original game, holy crap, the remake is amazing. And reading into its release and dev cycle was also pretty interesting. When it was released, it got massive praise, ranging from the graphics, which still looked stunning with the remastered version, reworked controls, and atmosphere being some highlights, which I have to agree with some contention for the voice acting, of all things. I was also shocked to find that the remake was made in under 2 years. A game being developed in under 2 years. Wild, isn't it? What about the sales for Resident Evil Remake? If the sales I saw are accurate, Resident Evil Remake sold almost 450,000 copies on the GameCube. It was a console exclusive at the time, and probably from its later remasters and ports, this game has been on pretty much everything, including the friggin' Wii. Capcom reported sales at about 1.35 million copies as of 2008. So, from what I could tell, its sales got better when it left the GameCube. The remaster would garner similar sentiments, and when released from the shackles of console exclusivity, became a massive success, just the PS3 selling around 4.8 million copies alone. Also, this game is so well done and well made, it's on the friggin' Nintendo Switch. Saying the remake was a success and aged well would be a drastic understatement. But what did this remake do to make it so different from its original and arguably even better than its classic sibling? Well, let's get into the gameplay. Full disclosure, I have never played the original version that was on GameCube. My experience is with the HD remaster on Steam. I can confirm that the tank controls were present in the original and can be picked to use in the HD version. If the alternate controls are selected though, it's more precise when moving around with more directions. Being able to move in all 8 directions really makes a difference. And being able to push the analog stick slightly to walk. Pretty much this setting is like having sprint always on by default, and having the ability to walk easier helps with an explosive canister later, unless you use something explosive near it. Just like last time, when starting a new game, players pick between Jill or Chris. There's also a new difficulty selection mode that's a bit more crafty than the usual selections, using the concept of mountain climbing, jogs, or walk for the difficulty of the game. Basically, top to bottom is hard to easy. They both play like the original with some tweaks as well for Chris and Jill. For example, Chris this time gets a bonus item like Jill with the lockpick. In his case, it's the lighter, which saves item space and also lets Chris use the new body burning mechanics easier than Jill. They also have the same inventory space like their original counterpart. The weapons also remain the same as last time, with probably the new addition being the combat shotgun that has more ammo capacity but the same damage as the regular shotgun. It's a bit weird to obtain, so don't worry too much about it. There are also other weapons that can be unlocked later too. The weapons are aimed in a similar fashion as well. The smaller details are what make a difference between the two games. For example is the zombies. This time around they not only wander around the mansion, but they can outright break through doors to continue chasing. It's also possible for zombies to further mutate if their heads are intact, or not burned to become the new Crimson Heads, becoming faster and stronger and kinda dumber. Also this time around, the hunters felt much easier than last time. Though it's still possible to get one shot by them, it felt more like it was my fault and not the game going, "Fuck you, man!" And they can also break through doors. The controls being the way they are with the HD version probably is why I felt this way. Herbs work the same as well as the save rooms. This time, Jill has to use ink ribbons like Chris usually does. What makes Remake very different is the introduction of brand new areas like an outside balcony, a basement level behind the stairs, an expanded courtyard that also introduces a new obstacle with Lisa Trevor, and a graveyard-like area behind the main hall with a new puzzle and boss, along with heavily expanded areas throughout the mansion. There's also revamped puzzles or even brand new ones that, even if you played the original game, it won't help very much since a good chunk of these are completely different once you get past the beginning hours. Also, aside from some of the weapons, these weapons are placed in new areas, like the Magnum being in a graveyard area instead of the Tiger statue. The combat shotgun can also show up differently if Richard is present in the area with the Yawn boss battle, or in one of the labs with the Neptune sharks. Or you can completely miss it by being a dick and leaving Richard to the Yawn after getting one of the key items, like I did because I was curious what would happen. Yes, I'm a dick. There's also these new defense weapons that can be picked up, like daggers, with grenades for Chris and a stun gun for Jill. When an enemy grabs Jill or Chris, they can use these to get out of the grapple. These are for almost all enemies aside from the bosses. Also, if you use a dagger and then blow up a zombie's head, you can retrieve the dagger. It's not easy to pull off, but it was an interesting detail. There's also the combat knife that's still completely useless as per tradition. Another thing that was improved, or in my opinion downgraded, was the voice acting and dialogue. There's still remnants of the campy dialogue in places.
Barry.
That was a close one. A second late, you would have fit nicely into a sandwich.
Really? Thanks. Wesker.
Jill, so you're safe.
That's what I was going to say.
Listen here, you little
And overall, the voice acting got a step up, objectively speaking, making the narrative in Resident Evil a bit more immersive in its atmosphere. I still think the campy dialogue was better. I'm just a sucker for campy dialogue.
I saw the signal. What's going on?
Nothing. False alarm.
Are you sure?
It's also a bit easier to get the better endings with less obscure methods like missing Barry's rope in the original. This time around, there's many bonuses to finishing the game. Like the original one, Chris and Jill can unlock a costume room, change into bonus costumes that they get for finishing the game with an unlocked difficulty selection. It's a little different than the initial one, or even pick a costume before starting the game. When the new selection became available, I picked medium, and the placement of items and enemies changed in a lot of the areas. Also, if the game is beaten under 3 hours, I unlocked the rocket launcher, completely by accident, along with an unlimited ammo pistol. There's also other modes that can be unlocked. What I could find were things like an invisible enemy mode or one dangerous zombie mode. I didn't unlock these ones. What I did unlock were real survival and prototype features, meaning manual aiming and item boxes no longer connected to each other, concepts that were in the original builds of the original game. It's cool that the more Resident Evil Remake is played, the more stuff can be unlocked, keeping it fresh enough every playthrough. What Remake does to the original game, just from the gameplay, I can honestly say this is the definitive version, even if the original still holds up. Now, with most of the gameplay out of the way, let's get into the story.
It's fucking
Since this is the story segment, I'll wait a bit to give time to skip to the wrap-up with a timestamp here-ish. Since it's pretty much a rehash of the original game with some new bits, I won't go too into it. Just like the original Resident Evil, the remake follows either Chris or Jill as their STARS Bravo team looks into incidents that have been occurring in Raccoon City from mysterious attacks rampaging within the city, leading them to the Raccoon City forest where their Alpha team went dark. They discover a downed copter and get attacked and forced into the mansion with either Barry in tow or Chris missing, with the Bravo team investigating the mansion. Like before, they discover the various experiments and research staff inside the mansion, with Chris finding team member Richard and Alpha team member Rebecca, who helps in the investigation, whereas if it was Jill who finds Richard, gets assistance from him against the Yawn bioweapon, and is eating like a Snickers in her scenario. The story is expanded a bit, especially with Jill's having more interactions with Barry, and some of these interactions being completely missable, making the story reveal differently when discovering what had happened to the Arklay staff. Also, like last time, Chris, Jill discover the various hidden labs under the mansion, and a mysterious creature revealed to be Lisa Trevor, a former resident of the mansion that was involved in the experiments, leading to the main laboratory where Wesker reveals that he's been behind most of what happened at the mansion to secure the tyrant used for the various experiments. Depending on the scenario, the tyrant will either kill or knock out Wesker, the former with him disappearing Batman style. After defeating the tyrant, like last time, the self-destruct sequence activates and the team call in their copter pilot, Brad, When the tyrant emerges from the ground for a final battle, after blowing it up, they board the copter and escape from Arklay Mansion before it explodes. And like last time, either Rebecca or Barry will be in the copter depending on who was picked to play. And that's the story for Resident Evil Remake. Just like the original Resident Evil, Remake is a solid game. Even though I played the remaster on Steam, I can say that this is fantastic so many years later, and can understand why this one got so many ports over the years. A lot of my issues with the original seemed to be addressed and refined, especially with the hunters. I fucking hate the hunters in the original. Making the remake a fresh experience that I'm tempted to go in and play again on higher difficulties more and more. The new puzzles were interesting, and some were mind-bogglers on occasion, or some puzzles I somehow outright skipped, like the Vigil one. I never had to do the puzzle, even as Chris. Just this one part shows that it's possible to have a different experience per playthrough, making the storyline of Remake even more replayable. That's despite both character stories being canon again, and trying to make sense of it is still confusing. The gameplay that already held up in the original got an overhaul, making it even better than before. The dialogue, which was campy last time, is objectively better, but I will miss the camp that the original had. And the music is more atmospheric this time, leading to a package that I can honestly say makes the remake a more definitive experience than the original, even if the original still holds up. And if I had to pick between the two, the remake is better, but the original is a classic for a reason. I also still prefer Jill's scenario more than Chris's again, even beating the game under 3 hours with her. The remake is pretty much on everything now, but I can recommend the Steam port wholly. Next time, I'll be looking into the GOG port of Resident Evil 2 for the first time, and see how well that holds up. If you enjoyed watching up to this point, well, I appreciate it. Leave a like, comment, or even subscribe, as that helps me to see if my shenanigans are at least a little entertaining. Does Wesker actually survive in the Chris scenario? Where is Rebecca during most of this? There's zero explanation. Will Chris ever learn how to play piano?
You suck.
Let me know if I missed something, or even whatever you liked about the remake, or will you go try it out now? Till next time, bye-bye.